Are you looking for some free and easy 100th day of school activities? Hey, special educators, this is Jennifer from Positively Learning, and I've got you covered. I'm going to be sharing this blog post. I will put the link in the description, so be sure to check it out. In this blog post, there's also a link to some free download resources that you can use today. All right, so before I share what we did in the resource room, I do have a huge confession to make. Our school did not do a whole lot to celebrate the 100th day of school. Definitely not what I've been seeing online on Instagram and Pinterest. So many great creative ideas out there. At our school, our kindergarten teachers did join together to do a big project based celebration. Very traditional, where students are making collections of 100 things and counting by tens, maybe some years dressing up as a 100-year-old and writing their predictions. But after kindergarten, just didn't do a whole lot. Now, as a special educator, I was splitting my time between pushing into the inclusion classroom setting, whether to co teach or pull small groups, or I was pulling small groups into the resource room setting. So these activities are what I did in those small groups. Now, these are literacy based because the majority of my day was pulling small reading groups. We did math and we did behavior support. We also pulled groups aligned with specific IEP goals. But even with the IEP goals, many of them were literacy based. So that is what we had. One way that I love to incorporate some celebrations and holidays without breaking the routine too much is to use read alouds. So here are the two read alouds that I would use for the 100th day. They are very, very simple. They definitely are not in depth. So if you have some other fresh ideas for read alouds, I would love to hear them. Please drop a comment and let me know what they are. And I would love to take a closer look. I did use both of these. The way I used them is I chose the Trudy Harris book, which is just really fun. They both have a lot of alliteration and rhyming and some skip counting, of course. I would use the Trudy Harris in the morning. So when my students would transition to the resource room, I would pull them to the small carpet. And it's almost like a morning meeting atmosphere where we do a read aloud together. It just really kind of set our day up for success. And then we would move into our small groups or independent work. But the Trudy Harris book was a perfect one to kick off. It is short, sweet, it's engaging. Now, the Anne Rockwell book, 100 School Days, I would also use that one, but I may incorporate that one later in the day. I often did a read aloud after my students transitioned back from lunch and recess. I don't know about you, but I just noticed my students definitely need a reset so that we can have a great afternoon together. And a read aloud is just one of our favorite ways to do that. So, both of those books I highly recommend. The other activity that we did was a small group reading lesson. We used Reading A to Z, and I do know that that is a paid subscription that you may not have access to. I still think this free download could be very useful if you, even if you don't use this book. This is a leveled book, but I wasn't really using them in a traditional leveled way, unless you just happen to have students that were exactly on level with each other. But I would use it many other ways for the vocabulary, for celebrating the theme, counting 100 things. Of course, we would incorporate counting, looking for some different things that we could find in the book that were more aligned to our goals, whether we were focusing on initial sounds or other phonics, phonemes, and skills that we recognize, fluency, all sorts of things. So let me click on over to the free resource. And again, you may not have the Reading A to Z book, but as I go through these activities, maybe you can find another way to use them. All right, I put links into the two read alouds that we use. Let me know if there's something else out there. And then there is the book From Reading A to Z by Cecilia Mason. But from the book, I pulled the vocabulary, and I loved to use vocabulary. You could print these out, laminate them. Maybe you're printing them on a bright color cardstock or paper and using a pocket chart. I liked to use these in a little bit of a different way. I would often just print these out on one sheet, not even cut them up unless my students really needed to focus only on one word at a time. But instead, if my students were ready for it, I'd just give them their own piece of paper with these words on it and a highlighter or a yellow crayon if highlighters are too exciting. And then by too exciting, I mean like distracting. But then we would go on some type of word hunt, whether we were looking for initial sounds that we recognized or compound words. And just looking at these words, you could probably see a lot of other things that we could find, like consonant blends or diphthongs. So that is one way that we could do it. Of course, you could use these in just the traditional vocabulary sense, defining the meaning and so on. And I love to give examples. I love to give non-examples, which my students find absolutely hilarious. I do have a second set of these vocabulary words that do have some of those phonemes already color coded. And then the second activity is more of a word work activity, taking compound words and splitting them up. There's so many things you could do with them. You could repeat the highlighter activity, making like, for example, the word rain. I would, if we're doing initial sounds or ending sounds, I could highlight the R, highlight the N, or in my case, most of the time with my students, I'd be highlighting the long A sound phoneme in the middle, the AI. So I'd be highlighting that. Maybe I'm highlighting that and asking students what they notice, or maybe they are highlighting it and showing it to their partner, wherever your students are able to interact with the content. Now, these are compound words, so really fun if you're reading and matching the text to create a compound word. Super hilarious if you do the non-examples like butterbox or rain fly, things like that. My students just thought that was the bee's knees. And then I also had pictures that represent those compound words. So of course, this could become an independent activity where your students are matching the compound word and then checking it by adding the picture to it and all sorts of fun things. Put it in a pocket chart, put it in the floor, put it in a task box, whatever works for your students. So those are the two activities that are free. You don't need to sign up for anything. You just click the link in the blog post. So I will put this link in the description right when I finish this video. Now, if you are new to my channel, I would love to have you take a look around. I focus in on helping special educators tackling all of the things that we have to do, whether it's behavior support, getting organized with all of that paperwork. That is my favorite thing, data collection, and differentiation. So if that sounds like something that would be helpful to you, I would be so honored if you click subscribe so that you don't miss the weekly videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.